I walked through our lobby and there was a dude just sitting there, and it just hit me like, oh, he's doing what we want him to do and we are doing nothing for him. And it was this like real wake up call for me.
Welcome to Lifeline for Leaders, a podcast created to strengthen and connect those serving in pregnancy care clinics and pro-life ministries. I'm Linda Thomas.
And I'm Kirk Thomas. Each week we sit down with leaders, ministry partners, authors, and experts who shape the pro-life landscape, sharing practical insights you can use right away and inspiring stories that remind you you're not walking this journey alone.
Our mission is to help you serve with confidence and resilience. This is your community, your support, your lifeline. This episode's Lifeline is a reminder that fathers matter deeply, not only in the home, but in the health of families, the strength of communities, and the future of the next generation. Today's guest is Andrew Wood, a nationally recognized speaker, author, and ministry leader with more than 15 years of experience equipping churches, pregnancy centers, and nonprofit leaders to lead with clarity and purpose. He's also the founder and president of AHW Ministry Advisors. And if that isn't enough, he's the husband to Erin and the proud father of 6. Before we get started, Kirk, would you please lead us in prayer?
I sure will. Thanks. Lord, thank you for the leaders like Andrew serving families every day. Give us all wisdom as we walk along both mothers and fathers. Prepare us with the words and tools that allow us to speak truth to your sons and daughters that walk into a clinic facing an unplanned pregnancy. Provide strength and courage to every sinner listening today. In your name, Jesus, amen.
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 All right, let's just jump right into it, Andrew. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Anytime I get to talk is a good day.
Well, so just about intentionality to talking to fathers at a pregnancy care center. Why is that so important nowadays?
Yeah, I think we are seeing, revival may be too strong of a word, but maybe an awakening that at least that's what happened for me. I mean, I led a pregnancy center in Knoxville, Tennessee. And one day I was walking, I don't know if I was going to lunch or going to a meeting or something, but I walked through our lobby and there was a dude just sitting there. And it just hit me like, oh, he's doing what we want him to do and we are doing nothing for him. And it was this like real wake up call for me. And so when I got back from where I was going, I sat down with a couple staff members and I was like, we're doing something for dads. I don't know what that is. We just have to engage them. We can't say we need you to be involved, and when they show up, we don't do anything. And so really what I did, I mean, I just, I didn't have a curriculum at the time. I was like, well, I'm a dad. I have a dad. I'm a man. Surely I can figure this out. And so I reached out to a donor of ours, a partner of ours, who owned a few tire shops in the area. And I just said, hey, we're going to start engaging fathers. And what I was wondering is if we get this off the ground and we bring them to your tire shop, I would love to spend some time encouraging them, maybe 7 to 10 minutes. We'll do something kind of baby focused, show them how to change a diaper, how to set up a pack and play, something like that. And then I said, I would love to hand it over to your guys to like walk us through basic car maintenance. And he was like, absolutely, we'll do that. And we'll feed them. And so our first one was at a tire shop and all the guys brought their car and it was just hey, here's how you check fluids. And the crazy thing is we did that a few times. And every time we did that, every car we pulled into the tire shop, when we got their spare tire out, was flat, every single one. Mm-hmm. So I say that to say, check your spare, make sure it has air in it. That's a handy thing. That was not a lesson I was expecting to learn. But I, from there we were like, okay, we got it rolling. What else can we do? And so every month we would meet at a different partner in the city of Knoxville. And it was giving them practical knowledge as well as spiritual guidance too. And so what we found was guys they were looking for community. I think oftentimes we hear these young ladies are looking for community, and we kind of forget that men need that too. I mean, I'm in just personally, I'm in I meet with a group of guys every Monday via Zoom. I meet with a group of guys every Thursday via Zoom, and those are two different groups because I need that.
Well, you really
Awesome.
thought outside the box to get the ministry going and geared toward men. What are some things that the centers can do to think outside the box to keep men engaged and to let the women know, the moms know that it's important that their partners come with them?
Yeah, what we tried to do and what I would encourage folks to do, sometimes we overcomplicate it and then we're just kind of paralyzed and we don't do anything. Sometimes we take what we're doing with the ladies and we just change the pronouns. And I'm like, that's not an answer either. These are, men and women are very different. I know that's crazy to say in 2026, but they're different. And so we need to make sure that whatever we're doing for the guys, it does look a little bit different. And so what I've found to be successful is while we're doing parenting education with moms, we would have one night where we would say, bring your partner. And what we meant by that is bring whoever's going to be in that room with you. So, because what we didn't want to do is say, bring the father of your child, because some of them is like, well, he will never show up and we have no contact. So we didn't say that. We would say, bring whoever's going to be with you so some people brought their moms, some people brought friends, but many of them brought the father of the child. And then I would speak to that class and I would say, hey, if you're a dad in here, we meet on this night at this time, we'd love to have you. And so it was a way for us to kind of bridge that gap. But I would say there are guys right now in your community that would love to be involved. They just don't know how, because they have listened to what the culture has said. This isn't a man's issue. And what we have to tell them is the only way we're gonna correct the fatherlessness epidemic that we find ourselves in is if the good dads that are doing it step in and mentor those that don't have it modeled. And so you can't be what you don't see. So many of these guys are just doing what they know, which is nothing. And so we have to then step in and be that model for them. And that's really what I think we've gotten away from generational discipleship. We've segregated everything. You're a certain age at the church, well, then you go meet with a certain age. You want to be in a life group, you go meet with a certain age life group. Instead, we need to have cross-generational discipleship where when we had those dads classes, we had granddads in there that were coming to serve and mentor young men that are just stepping into parenthood. And we needed that. We needed I wanted guys in there that had their kid, that were empty nesters. I wanted guys in there that their wife was pregnant. I wanted guys in there that were like me and had one in every age group. My wife got pregnant while I was leading the dad's class, and those dads were like, oh, you get to walk through it with us now, and so those are things that we want, because we want them to see, hey, no matter what season you're in, we have somebody here that you can learn from. And there are guys at the church, there are guys in your community that are just itching. They just need to be asked. And they don't want it to be overly feminized where they feel like, what am I supposed to do? I'm a manager of a tire shop, or I'm a landscaper, or I'm a contractor. What do you need from me? And it's like, what we need is for you to be you and show them how to be the dad and husband that God's called them to be.
One other question, Andrew. You talked about sitting in those rooms. What do you do when you feel that the father's just disengaged from it, or that he's really pressuring his partner to have an abortion?
Yeah, I mean, I grab them and shake them. No, that's what I wanted to do multiple times. No, I think it's one of those things. I've even been earlier today, I recorded something and so it's fresh on my mind. But I think sometimes we struggle to trust God to be God when we're not there. And so and what I mean by that is when that dad walks out of the building, when that young lady walks out of the building, we fret and we wring our hands. And I think sometimes we do that because we believe we are the savior and we are the answer. And in reality, we need to do everything we can. I remember sitting down with a guy one time and I threw everything with him, Eddie. Like, like not literally, but figuratively, I threw everything at him. I mean, I challenged him. I pushed, I encouraged, I, mapped it all out. We went through it for an hour, and he walked out of my office going, "Yeah, I just still don't know." And I was just like, "Are you kidding me?" And but there was this moment of, I do not have control. I trust the Lord's going to take the seeds that I just planted, and hopefully the right decision will be made. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. But I think often these guys are not wanting to be seen as a project. They're wanting to be seen as somebody that is going through a tough spot. I sat down with a guy one time, and I just challenged him on, his girlfriend was pregnant, and I just felt like I didn't always do this. So I want y'all to hear my heart on this. I don't think in every scenario those parents should get married. Okay. So I'm not saying that. But what I do think is often no one in their life is giving them permission to even think about it. And so I just felt in my spirit, talking to this guy at a Salsaritas in the middle of the day, that he needed to be challenged. And so I said, "Have you thought about marrying her?" And this may sound crass, and I apologize, but I said, you thought about laying down with her? Have you thought about marrying her?" And he just looked at me and was like, "Why? No." I was like, "Well, why not?" So I wasn't telling him, "Hey, go do this." I was saying, "Look, there's now a child coming in here. Like, you need a man to man, you need to be challenged and encouraged, and you need to wrestle with these things." And what I have found when I would sit down with guys, and I wasn't just doting on them or saying what they wanted to hear. They respected and appreciated someone that would be willing to kind of get in the mess with them. I think as believers, we often are very good at standing on the shore and yelling while people are drowning. Swim, kick your arms. You brought this on yourself. And disciples, get in there, and we're going to get slapped in the face and drugged down, and it's going to be messy. But I found when you really sit down and treat them as a peer, as just a person, not a project. And at times I had to put the shepherd pastor kind of language on the shelf and be able to relate with them in some of the messiness that they were facing. And what I found was, in those moments, something starts to happen, and that rough shell starts to crack, and then you can reach them. But when they feel like they don't want to be engaged, I think that's the moment. Anytime I would sit down with a guy that was questioning, or, "Hey, we're not ready to do this," I would just tell them. I would say, from my viewpoint, from my worldview, the Lord could have picked anyone on this planet that's ever walked this planet to be the dad to this child, and he picked you. And so you have an opportunity to throw that away or to step into that responsibility. You have an opportunity right now to not be the dad that you didn't have, but to change all that. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And, my prayer is that it would, again, plant those seeds so that they would step into the responsibility in front of them.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, and I would imagine a lot of them, when it's positioned like that, it's probably something that they, for the first time or one of few times, that they feel like, "Oh, I am in control of this. I do have a say. I do have a voice in this." So how much influence do you see? I'm not going to say typically, because I don't think there's a typical answer, but how much influence does the father have over that decision? And has that changed over the years or decades?
Yeah, I mean, I think in Lifeway and CareNet did a study on this not too long ago, and I think it's probably only grown. The most influential person in the decision making is not the pastor, it's not mama, it's not daddy, it's the man that was involved in the pregnancy. And the females are telling us that, and the males are telling us that. And so it is an influential, often the culture will say, "Oh, that's a decision between a woman and her doctor," which is such nonsense. That is it boggles my mind. I always say this. I was very much involved with the creation of my 6 kids. Okay, very much. So to say that it's the decision between my wife and her doctor, and I have no say, is just, I mean, I could rant on that for a while. That's nonsense. But it's a decision. Culture will say that, but when you ask those clients, they say, "Yeah, the doctor's involved. Yeah, I'll go to mentors and friends." But really, if he tells me to abort, I'm more likely to abort. But if he tells me we can do this, I'm more likely to keep this child. That's what they're telling us. And I think we are seeing a resurgence of men wanting to be better men. I mean, I devour podcasts on a lot of different topics. Some of them are things that I could recommend on here, and some of them are not. But what I'm finding, even in the secular world, men are starting to rise up and call men to be better. Now they're doing it. Sometimes they're doing it away from the Lord. I mean, they're pointing men to kind of go out and domineer and dominate and make babies with whoever and whenever and all that. That's nonsense. But a lot of them are saying, hey, there's something special about the first time I held that child. And I commented on a post the other day about there was a video of all these young men holding their babies for the first time, and all of them were crying. And the post was saying, this is natural. This is what happens. And all I did was comment under it and say, from the first to holding my sixth, I did that exact same thing. So it wasn't like I got used to it. It still brought that emotion. And the amount of likes is crazy. But why? Because when people see men stepping into that role, everyone recognizes it's better. Things will be better. Your communities will be better if dads are present. Your home will be better, obviously, if dads are present. Your subdivision, your church, your schools, everything will be better if dads are present and involved and engaged in the process. And I think a lot of these young men that are, stepping out or not stepping up to the plate, I think it's just because it hasn't been modeled well, or it's the same thing. Like, why is marriage numbers declining? Well, often the picture we give of marriage is not a good picture. Mm-hmm. So our kids are like, well, if that's what marriage is, I don't want it.
Right.
So in the same way, if that's what parenting is, if that's what's having a bunch of kids, if my kids come to me and be like, I'm just having one, I'm going, well, we probably did something here that was not a good model, where they're like, this is chaos. Why would anybody want to do this? But if they come to me and they have a desire I love a large family. We didn't get it perfect, but we modeled for them what a large family could look like. And I think we just have an opportunity in these situations to, again, give them that which they don't see. And it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And so that the question, when you're sitting down one-on-one, that's not just a question for that man, that's a question for society, because that's
Absolutely
where it starts. So Kirk, did you have a question?
Yeah, I sure did. Well, let's kind of flip that around. What do you do when it's the woman that's sitting in the chair and they don't want the father involved, or they don't even want to tell the father?
Yeah, and those are hard ones. I mean, because here's the thing: in some of those cases, not the majority or not all, but in some of those cases, those guys don't need to be involved. And so you have to be discerning with, as much as I want the man involved, if he is going to cause chaos or abuse, and in the same way, if that young lady is going to cause chaos and abuse, we need to, because I've been in those conversations too, where I got called back one time at a baby shower because the phone call to me was, I think they are about to fight. And it wasn't an argument. It was, I think they were about to lay hands on each other. And I thought, well, this should be fun. And when I got there, here's the reality. She wanted to fight him physically as much as he wanted to. Like, it was bonkers. And in that moment and through that whole situation and that conversation, what he felt like is, y'all don't listen to me and you need to know what I'm going through. And I sat there for over an hour listening to him, and I thought, okay, yeah, he definitely don't put your hands on her. I mean, I made that clear. But what he was dealing with in that moment was not ludicrous. Like, it was real stuff that she had been doing. And so I think we have to get to a place where we encourage these men to, even in those tough scenarios where, because I have friends that have been through this, where they wanted the child and they had no say, and the woman aborted the child. And it is, I mean, it's soul crushing. It's heart wrenching, but I think that's where you pray and you trust the Lord with those conversations. And my advice to the guy would be, you just have to be present. I know this is hard. I know this is difficult. I know there's a lot of things you want to say, and you want to win the argument, and you want to do this and do that. Right now is not about winning the argument. Right now we have a life that is hanging in the balance. I need you to step in and lean in and recognize your faults. Where have you been lacking? I mean, I sat down with a guy one time, and a pastor called me, and he said, "Hey, are you going to be here on Wednesday nights?" Because we would go to church there on Wednesday nights. And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Hey, I have somebody in my office." And I was like, "Okay." So I get there, and the pastor just walks out. I was like, "Oh, this is, this should be interesting." And so I sit down with this guy, and he's saying, my girlfriend wants to have an abortion. I don't. I want us to keep the baby. And he said, "I keep telling her I'm going to be there." He said, "Now I do need to let you know I have some charges, and I could go away to prison for 10 years. And I just looked at him and I said, "So you may not be there. Like, listen to what you're saying." And as we talked, like, I knew what he did. And I looked at him and I said the hard thing. I said, "You know what? And you may need to go to prison because what you did is terrible. And so what I need you to do is not give her false hope that you're going to be there, because you may not be there physically. But you need to show her that even though I may not be there physically, I'm putting things in place so that you're not doing this alone."
Mm-hmm.
And so I think sometimes, again, that was a hard conversation. You think I wanted to tell that guy he should go to prison? Me and him in a room? I didn't know what was going to happen, but that's what he needed to hear. He needed another man to look at him and say, there are consequences to our actions. This may need to happen, but regardless if that happens or not, you need to make sure that you're putting things in place. You can't just tell her you're going to be there when in fact you may not be physically there. And again, it's having those hard, uncomfortable conversations, and then putting it in God's hand. So I didn't walk away carrying the weight of that. I trust that the Lord will intervene as He sees fit.
And really what you're asking him to do, and it's not obvious unless you've read your book, Hero, Ghost, Villain, is you're putting that nugget or that seed in about setting up the legacy, starting the legacy now. What is it going to look like in the future? So for centers who do an absolutely great job, I am in awe of everything that they do. But if there's anything maybe that you can share that might help them with the engaging men, maybe one thing, is there anything that you can think of that comes top of mind?
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of folks don't realize, I've had a lot of conversations even over the last few months with pregnancy centers that have they use Bright Course, which is a platform to help train up their clients and staff and other things. But it's a great tool. It's kind of what used to be Earn While You Learn is now Bright Course. And I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, because they were talking about this thing, that how do we engage the dads? And I said, I have a dad focused study on Bright Course. So you already have access to it. If you're using Bright Course, it's on there. Search it. Either you can search Built to Lead or Hero, Ghost, Villain, and that can give you that. There's other national organizations that have great curriculum. And here's the thing. Even when I put that on Bright Course, I talked to other fatherhood programs, and what we all agreed is once they complete one, they need something else to go to. Like, it's not a competition. I'm not in competition with this fatherhood curriculum or that. Like, as long as it's elevating the good things of God and calling men to be better, I'm going to support it. And we need those things. And so that's a great opportunity. If they already have access to Bright Course, they can use that and do that. And I would just say, reach out to the pastors, the churches that are supporting you. Reach out to the pastors and just say, hey, we need some guys that can help in this. And so I've encouraged centers to open up one of their offices, open up a room in their building and tell a pastor, hey, once a week, if you want to come work remotely and work here, we won't bother you. But if a guy walks in, we'd love to connect you with him. And that pastor can still get his work done and all that, and know he's not going to be bothered the whole time. But that also gets them in your building to see what you're doing, see the work you're doing. And you can offer that not just to pastors. Maybe you have other guys that work remotely. I work from home. So, there's a way to, how can I get them in my building? And then if a guy walks in, we can connect them. Again, don't overcomplicate it, and don't see them as projects, and don't let your bias of a lot of the stories that you've heard of dudes not stepping up and being what they need to be taint the way you interact, because maybe they're doing that because that's all they know. And so give them something else to strive for. There's so many men in my life I could point to and be like, I do what I do now because of that man. And I could go down the list. My brothers, my dad, my stepdad, my granddaddy, he's been married to my grandmama for 74 years. And so there were men in my life to show me, hey, we're not going to put up with nonsense. This is the direction you need to go. And a lot of these guys we're serving, they haven't had that. And so how do we give that to them?
Andrew, that is so insightful, and thank you so much for that. What you've shared today is encouraging and hopeful. And if today's episode helped listeners think differently about how they engage or how they can engage the centers, we'd love for you to share it with your team. And if you'd like to get a hold of Andrew, you can reach him at andrewhwood.substack.com. And on the next episode of Lifeline for Leaders, Andrew and Kirk will be talking one dad to another about Andrew's recently released and powerful book called Hero, Ghost, Villain, and what it means to be present, faithful, and intentional in their role as fathers. Thanks for joining us today on Lifeline for Leaders. If today's episode was meaningful, feel free to share it with someone who might benefit. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a conversation.
Remember, you don't have to walk this mission alone. We're honored to walk alongside you.
See you next time.